Today we're looking at 5 depreciated luxury Grand Tours for under 100k, 50k, 25k, 15k and 7.5k. Let's get straight into it. Let's kick off with our 100k car, the Rolls-Royce Wraith, and though this is the most expensive car on the list, it might also be the best value for money. A car that costs up to around £400,000 with the right spec options, available for under 100 grand. Normally with relatively low mileage from a class above everything else on this list, given it's considered to be ultra luxury, not just luxury. Thick acoustic glass, double door seals, hand-stitched contoured leather seats that are heated, ventilated and massaging, a bespoke instrument cluster using milled metal, rear hinged coach doors, lambswool floor mats, starlight headliner and almost infinite spec options with the freedom to choose colour and materials across the car. These things are on a whole different level of luxury. A little outside of our price range, but in 2020 Rolls-Royce dropped 50 Wraith Cryptos examples which host their own treasure hunt, a code that needs to be deciphered with encrypted messages hidden across the car. Only 2 people at Rolls-Royce know the full deciphered code, and the key for it is literally locked in the CEO's safe in Goodwood. As far as I know, the code hasn't been solved yet, and the trail seems to run dry around 2 years ago, so the 50 owners better start hiring some serious analysts to work out what the company's hiding in that safe. They come with a lovely 6.6 litre twin turbocharged V12 that puts out 624 brake horsepower, wafting them to 60 in 4.6 seconds, which is actually pretty slow when you consider the amount of power, but of course speed isn't really what this thing is about. I've mentioned a small portion of the visible driver and passenger focused luxuries, but there are plenty of hidden features too, like the satellite aided transmission, which uses GPS data to anticipate upcoming terrain and driving style and select the correct gear accordingly, as if the car's reading the journey ahead. They'll run you around £80,000 at the bottom end, and £100,000 to get you into a 2016 example that's done around 50,000 miles. These are generally decent on reliability, but some owners have had issues with overly aggressive traction control, failing power closing doors and hydraulic leaks from the brakes and suspension. The general maintenance costs are high though, as you might expect from a car that costs more than £250,000. Let's cut that budget in half now to look at the Mercedes S63 AMG Coupe, and though I do think the Wraith is pretty good value for what it is, the S63 is probably the most underrated car on this list. The S-Class has almost always been the flagship car for the Mercedes brand, of course usually in saloon spec as the market leading executive luxury car, so the Coupe often gets overlooked. But it competes with newer cars like the BMW M8 for significantly less cash. The interior is incredibly luxurious with a spec similar to the saloon, just with a greater focus on the front rather than the rear. It's almost like a luxury speedboat in there. Technology has always been at the heart of the S-Class, and the Coupe is no different, with the active curve tilting being an incredibly cool feature. Basically, the rear-wheel drive version can lean up to 2.5 degrees into corners, countering centrifugal forces, enhancing passenger comfort in quite an ingenious way. Paired with Mercedes' well-known active body control, and you have a super comfortable car to waft around in. The post-facelift models came with that more recent well-known 4-litre twin turbocharged V8 block that makes 604 brake horsepower, taking the car to 60 in 3.5 seconds, easily making it the quickest car on the list, helped by it being offered in all-wheel drive. Separately, I also think the car looks incredible. It's one of the best looking Mercedes of the 2010s in my opinion, particularly with the clean pillarless window design, taking inspiration from the previous Grand Touring Mercedes. £28,000 will get you into a pre-facelift example, and for £50,000 you'll just about get into a facelift example from 2018 with 45,000 miles on the clock. The Airmatic suspension is known to have issues on these, typically leaks, and they also have a limited lifespan around 100,000 miles, so something to be aware of. The turbos have also been known to leak, and as these cars are quite electronically endowed, they do have a bunch of electricals that can go wrong, but owners have generated the cars broadly very well engineered and reliable. We're on to our 25k car now, the Maserati Grancabrio, the convertible version of the well-known Gran Turismo, which is probably the cheapest proper exotic car on the market. But the Grancabrio is a little pricier as it's a bit rarer, and is probably the better overall prospect, though I do think the coupe roof looks prettier. It's just that the engine on these sounds unreal, and you don't lose much practicality with the convertible either, given it was Maserati's first ever 4-seater convertible, and with actually usable rear seats too. Not only are they usable, they're accessible in a luxury manner too, given the front seats slide forward with an electronic control, so you don't have to mess with them if you're a rear passenger. And even with that roof down, the car is known to be able to fit a golf bag in the boot, which is pretty much what this car's for, a bit of an exotic grand touring luxury cruise to take out to the golf club on weekends. These come with a Ferrari Maserati Collab engine, a 4.7 litre V8 block that makes 433 brake horsepower, taking the car to 60 in 5 seconds, so only slightly slower than the Wraith, but with with the roof down, that soundtrack will more than make up for that lack of pace. They get some serious luxury too, by the way, like the Italian leather that's hand-stitched, Alcantara lathered around, classic Maserati dials on the dashboard, and an infotainment system that a lot of owners aren't particularly fond of. They start at around £20,000, and 5k more than that will get you into a 2011 model that's done around 35,000 miles. Soft top on these is known to have issues, which is interesting as though it's an Italian car, the roof was developed by a German company. There are also some multiple electrical issues known, typically sensor related, and some owners have experienced rough shifting from the gearbox. Outside of that, variator issues are known, if a little overhyped on forums, and higher maintenance costs on consumables are known too. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you are, then do hit like, I'd really appreciate it, and subscribe as well for 2 videos every single week. 72% of people watching right now are not subscribed, so get on it if that applies to you. And let me know in the comments down below what other topics you'd like me to cover in future videos. We're down to our 15k car now, the first generation Bentley Continental GT. This car was conceived back in 1999 and launched in 2003 to mark Bentley's revival under VW. It was the first completely new Bentley since 1930, with a very difficult set of challenges it needed to hit. It had to change the public's perception of the brand to appeal to a wider market, so it had to be cheaper without losing quality, while being able to take on cars like the Aston Martin DB7 and Porsche 911 on sportiness. It also needed to be able to carry enough luggage for a proper grand tour, and of course it needed to be mass produced beyond any previous Bentley to prove it had a bigger market. I mentioned luggage, and the boot will fit not one but 2 complete sets of golf clubs, and the interior remains handcrafted with some seriously premium materials too. I personally really like how simple the interior design is across the board, and for me the car really is the cheap alternative to the Wraith we spoke about earlier. The Conti came with a proper luxury Grand Tourer engine, a 6-litre twin turbocharged W12 that makes 552 brake horsepower, taking the car to 60 in 4.8 seconds, so just 2/10 slower than that significantly newer Wraith. It was actually built on the VW Phaeton's platform, but it was hand assembled in Bentley's Crewe factory with hundreds of hours put into finalising every car. Amazing that Bentley were able to make so many. And having now driven the larger Mulsanne that shares a few similarities aesthetically, driving one of these around would feel like cruising on a cloud. Honestly, luxury cars like this have changed my mental state when it comes to how to enjoy driving. These start at around the 10k mark these days, and 15k will get you a 2004 model with around 50,000 miles on the clock. The air suspension offers probably the most common issue I could find on forums, and though some owners have had catastrophic engine failures, normally these cars are quite mechanically sound if maintained correctly. Watch out for electrical issues which are usually non-engine related, and there are some known turbo and gasket leaks owners have mentioned too. And finally we're on to our £7,500 car, the Mercedes E500 Coupe, the cheap alternative to the S63 AMG we spoke about previously. This car actually sits between the C-Class and S-Class coupes, and it fully revived the pillarless design that we've seen on the S63 too. Aesthetically, the new design makes a massive difference over its COK predecessor. It definitely looks more modern despite being over 15 years old. It's got some usable rear seats, and it's the front ones that you probably want to be in though, given they get some of the love and attention that the S-Class got, like heating and ventilation, and in front of you you'll get quite a dated dashboard which aligns with Mercedes seeming to change their interior design every 20 minutes. This is one of the earlier Mercedes that got a lot of the driver assist features, which I personally think are way too aggressive on most Mercedes, but remains a cool showing of tech from a slightly older car. These get a great sounding 5.5 litre V8 engine that makes 402 brake horsepower, taking the car to 60 in 4.9 seconds, so again actually decently quick for the cheapest car on this list, 3/10 off the Wraith that costs more than 10 times more. It's unlikely you'll get a facelift within our price range, but they definitely look a lot more modern after 2013, more like a baby pre-facelift S63 AMG, just without the ludicrous performance and scale. Regardless, in pre-facelift spec, these won the 2009 Auto Bild Design Award for Germany's most beautiful coupe, and in 2010 Auto Motor und Sport awarded the car another design award, specifically for the convertible spec. These start at our £7,500 limit though, and you'll be getting yourself a high mileage 2010 model for that kind of money. The speed sensor is known to go on the transmission, which can cause it to fail and weirdly shift into lower gears, and the vacuum pump might also leak, which is not great for the brakes. Owners also seem to complain about issues with the key stopping working from the ignition lock mechanism, and the command control system also has its own issues. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then do hit like and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. Thanks to the patrons for their support, and to you guys as well for watching. Click on screen to watch me drive a lovely luxury car.